This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Hello and welcome to episode 304 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. It's about my Bangkok travels with friends. Let me firstly pay my respects to the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, where I'm recording this podcast today. So this episode is actually the final installment of my episodes about my Thailand trip. If you haven't heard them, go back and have a listen to episode 300, which was my kind of overall episode about the thrill of being abroad again post-COVID. And then episode 302, which talks about my experiences up in the north in Chiang Rai. So this one is all about Bangkok, and as well as hearing more from my chat on location with our fabulous guide Suree, who you also heard in episode 300, I also got to speak, once we were back at our desks in Australia, with three of my fellow travellers, Paddy, Bonnie and Jules. So I have travelled on a few media trips over the years, and one thing that always makes me a bit nervous is who will I end up travelling with. It's a real lucky dip, but I must say I have been extremely lucky. I have never really had a bad experience, but I have heard of plenty of people who've ended up travelling with people you don't necessarily get along with, or even, people who are always late for the time that, you're meant to be leaving or stuff like that. But I was fantastically lucky to meet just only fabulous people on this trip, which is why I have called this episode Bangkok Travels with Friends. I actually already knew Bonnie beforehand. Bonnie's a Perth girl like me, well, Western Australian. And so I knew I was safe with Bonnie, but everyone else turned out great too. So recording this episode was a great excuse to catch up with some of them. And it's also interesting to hear their perspectives on our joint explorations of Bangkok. So speaking of Bangkok, it was my fourth time to Bangkok, but I could keep going back again and again. There's just always more to explore. And my first guest today also knows Bangkok very well, but he describes something that was a completely new experience for both of us, so it was pretty cool. So I'm going to be speaking with Paddy Jenkins. He lives in Sydney, but he has a special love of Thailand, has spent a lot of time there, speaks fluent Thai, and he runs a YouTube channel called Thai Talk with Paddy, which I highly recommend. So we had a chat about a really special part of Bangkok called Kudijin.
So Kudichin is that was actually also my first time visiting there, and it was an amazing place. It was actually the highlight of my time in Bangkok. But Kudichin was a little community on the banks of the Chao Phraya River in Bangkok, and it's an amazing little place. Its history is that it was a community given to the then Portuguese, Chinese, and Islamic migrants for their help with defending Siam from the invading Burmese army at the time. And now it's a bit of an ode to all these different migrants. And people have been living in that community for a long time, and it's still got a lot of its core elements that were there once, like 200 or 300 years ago. One of the great landmarks of Kudijin is the church, Santa Cruz Church, which was handed to the Portuguese migrants by the then King Thaksin, the great Thaksin. And so it still sits there. I actually have a friend who teaches at that school. And the little alleyways, the little sois that you can walk down, they've got the old Portuguese tarts, which is an ode to kind of Portuguese cooking. And there's a little museum there which you can go through and walk through and see about the history. But I think one of the great things about it is that it's on like a tourist trail. And if you went digging in your kind of Lonely Planet guides, you'd find it. But it isn't overcrowded. I think compared to a lot of the other temples, which people go in and there's people at the door asking for money, and there's people taking photos everywhere. There's a real pure essence to the place, which I really liked when I visited there. So yeah, that was probably my favorite part about Kudichin. It's maintained its cultural richness without being overloaded by tourism attractions.
I know what you mean. It's almost one of those places that I feel we shouldn't talk about so that we don't send too many people there.
It's a bit off the beaten track in a way. Like, I mean, it's not that difficult to get to, but you'd kind of have to know about it to really want to go there. It's not smack bam. It's not hitting you in the face. I think what's obvious there is that the community is clearly being passed down through multiple generations, and that's quite obvious when you look around the houses. The laneways and sois are very close together, and the houses are almost built on top of each other, not in more of a communal fashion, not in a like too densely populated area. It's just, you can see that it's got a very communal vibe to the whole place. People go and ask, oh, come for dinner here, come for dinner there, which is quite rare for inner city communities, to be honest, especially in a place like Bangkok. If you went to the regions, you might see something a little bit more like that. But that was what I really liked about it. It definitely still has a communal essence to it. You've had lots of families who've lived there for a long period of time, and a very rich multicultural tradition. So you've got people from Chinese backgrounds, from Islamic backgrounds, from more Catholic backgrounds, who have all been living in that area for a long, long time. As well as being in such a nice part of Bangkok. That area would be, extremely expensive these days. It's right next to the Chao Phraya River, and in close proximity to some amazing parts of Bangkok, including Wat Arun, Wat Po, and even towards Sa Thon, which is the central business district. So it's within striking distance of some really hustling parts of the city, but yet it feels so quiet, it's so mellow, and it's so beautiful as well. So that's probably my favorite part. When I was walking through, I was like, why haven't I been here before? I've spent a lot of time in Bangkok and Thailand over the years, and I'd never really heard of it. So yeah, if I was a tourist in Bangkok for the first time looking for a slightly different experience, I would definitely go to Kudichin.
Yeah, you're so right. I hadn't really given it that much thought, and because of course you have this, much better overview of how Bangkok fits together than me. But you're right; it's close to everything, and yet it felt so. I didn't feel quite rural, but it felt like that close community kind of quieter feel. It was quite special, yeah. And I felt the same when I saw it on our itinerary. I was like, wow, I didn't know this existed, and this is super intriguing.
Well, Thailand's a very interesting country because it was the only country in Southeast Asia never to be colonized, but it still has those elements of old colonial powers like the Portuguese, and then also a lot of Chinese influence and a lot of history of Chinese traders and entrepreneurs coming from different regions of China. So it's, although it was never formally colonized or whatever, it's still got influences of these different cultures, which I love looking at. I think it's just fascinating.
Yeah, it was quite new to me. And so it was, super fascinating. It really was a really cool part of Bangkok to visit. I remember when I first saw it on the itinerary that I was sent, I was like, wow, I never knew this area existed. And yeah, it lived up to my expectations. So that was very cool. Now, as Paddy mentioned, Kudijin is close to several very well-known Bangkok temples. And so my next guest is travel writer Bonnie Grima, and she's going to talk to me about these temples in a bit more detail.
I think one of the things that I really enjoyed the most during our time in Bangkok was visiting some of Bangkok's fabulous temples. Thailand is home to so many wonderful Buddhist temples, and they're also elaborately decorated. They're just gorgeous to walk around. And the ones that I know we visited, we went to Wat Po, which is the temple of the reclining Buddha. So just to be there and look up at this 46-meter long golden Buddha, it was just unbelievable. And you can't see it in its entirety. You sort of have to walk along and just peek at little sections of it. And even I think the top of on the head, there's they couldn't fit because they had to build the building around it, and they had to raise the roof because they just couldn't fit it in. So yeah, it was just stunning, and so many people there. It's so popular.
It is amazing. It's the kind of place where you can't get a view of all of it at once, and you've got to kind of put it together in your head afterwards to imagine it as this whole structure.
What's also great about Wat Po is, apart from having a look at the Buddha, is it's actually Thailand's earliest centre for public education. And it was the birthplace of Thai massage. So that's really interesting.
That's right. They had all these like separate sections where you would be educated on different kind of parts of culture and kind of fact and history, didn't they?
That's right. I think it was added to UNESCO's Memory of the World program in 2008. It had all these marble inscriptions about Thai medicine and massage that you can still view today.
Yeah. It was pretty amazing, wasn't it? I took lots and lots and lots of pictures.
And another of the temples that we went to, of course, was Wat Arun, Temple of the Dawn, which is located right alongside the Chao Phraya. So this was a spectacular temple because it's so iconic, I think, along Bangkok's skyline. You can see it just standing out. It's got these spheres that are 70 metres high, and they're decorated in these really intricate floral mosaics that are just beautiful.
It really does stand out, doesn't it? I remember on my very first trip to Bangkok going on a river cruise, like a cruise dinner at night, and it's lit up and it's this like just this white beacon and you wonder what it is. And then on a later trip I got to visit, and it was my second time there this time, and it was, great to see it again.
What I thought was really funny was our guide, Suree, who took us there. She was explaining about the temple and about the many steps that the tourists and visitors go to climb, and about how hard it is to get to the top, and you really have to be determined. And but then she says, but attaining enlightenment and reaching heaven was never meant to be easy. So I thought that was quite lovely.
Yeah, that's so true. She had a lot of wise words, Suree. Yeah.
And they had a great ice cream there, an iconic ice cream that we got to try, didn't we?
I was hoping you would mention the ice cream because of all the images I've shared from that trip, that one always gets the most attention. Can you, for podcast listeners, explain this ice cream?
So the ice cream is only found at the temple. You can only buy it at the temple. So the ice cream is shaped like one of the floral mosaic tiles that you find that is decorating the temple. And there's three different flavors you can get. There's
definitely butterfly pea.
Butterfly pea, that's the one that you had. I had the Thai tea, I think, flavor. And there was another flavor that
I think there was, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember either, but I highly recommend butterfly pea. It's a pretty clever treat to have when you've been out there climbing the steps in the heat. You kind of need a little bit of a refreshment.
It is. It's a nice little reward.
Do you remember some of the tourists we saw having their photos taken at the temple there?
What's quite interesting is that our guide explained to us, Suree explained, that there was quite a lot of Chinese tourists. They go to Wat Arun to get their picture taken, but they're dressed in traditional Thai royalty dress, so very elaborate, and apparently it's quite a big thing to do. Like, it's quite a popular thing for the Chinese to come to Bangkok and dress up in Thai royal costume, which, we found quite interesting.
Yeah, I found it quite fascinating. So, I was quizzing Suree to find out more. I was slightly annoyed because there was a lot of them and, kind of impeded my progress wandering around the temple. But at the same time, it was really interesting to see, like, they had these really beautiful costumes on, which apparently they could rent nearby. But, it was, I love those kind of weird cultural things are fascinating to me.
They were very serious about it all too. I didn't see any smiling going on. It was all very serious business.
Yes, that's so true, actually. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. But you're quite right. I'm not sure if they were actually enjoying it or not, but they got the photos. Yes, this whole phenomenon of Instagram tourism is something I'm actually going to address in a whole episode soonish. But these costumed Chinese tourists were a very interesting example of it. Now, my next guest is Jules Park. Now, Jules is actually a financial auditor turned Instagrammer who migrated to Australia from South Korea in her 20s. She was great fun to travel with, and she's a huge foodie. And she picked to talk about Chinatown in Bangkok with me because, of course, she was in her element. And we had a really good talk about the many reasons that we absolutely loved visiting Chinatown one evening on our Bangkok trip. Now, I must apologise that I have somehow got some slightly dodgy sound happening on this recording, but hopefully I've fiddled with it enough that you can still hear it clearly.
Yeah, I was very, how can I say, like shocked because I didn't expect it's that big and that busy. I knew it would be busy because it's Bangkok, but it was just, how can I say, very vibrant, and it's just very real looking. So I've been to several night markets in Bangkok already before I went to Chinatown. So I went to like the popular Joe's Fair. Now there are two Joe's Fair. I've been both of them, and I've been to this weekend market, this Chatuchak market.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the most popular one as well. That's huge too. But all of them are more like shopping. It's not shopping center, but outdoor shopping center. Plus, it's like a more modern feeling,
Mm-hmm.
But Chinatown feels very, very, very authentic, real, and people working there look like it's hard to describe, but like real life, like real.
I know what you mean. Like they have been manning that stall for decades, or that's their real. They are the experts in that particular food or whatever it is. Compared to I agree, job fairs or everything else seems almost like that could happen here in Australia or anywhere in the world, and it's not so special. But Chinatown was totally different.
Yeah, Chinatown in Bangkok was just another world. It looks like people there. They look like it's their real jobs. Compared to other markets, it could be like their part-time job or just they are working for seasonal job or a student job. But Chinatown look like it's just their life. Like their life depends on that street food and things.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I guess that because it just comes alive at night, it's different during the day, I'm told. I haven't been, but then it has that real, I don't know, kind of everything, the hustle bustle, everything gets set up and here we are and it's crazy busy and yeah, it's just completely different.
Cooking on the street, lots of fire. And so it's on the street, there are lots of fire and stuff. And then when you look at the sky, there are a huge Chinese signs up there. So it's just very different. Yeah, because of that, it's night, but it's very, very, very bright and so many people walking and eating and on the street talking, eating, cooking. So many things were going on.
Yeah. It was properly busy, wasn't it? I really loved it. It had that really lovely atmosphere. And obviously lots and lots of local people were there as well.
Exactly, lots of local people.
What kind of foods did you try in Chinatown?
So first, when we got off our car, there was this lots of Michelin sign on this street vendor. And there was this bread stick thing. So they were making dough on the street. We could see all the process of making that dish. So that was more like a sweet, maybe dessert or appetizer, or it could be a quick bite or small lunch or something. So they were making dough and then cut it and then put that in the huge pot of oil to fry it. And then you eat it with this pandan cream or sauce. It was freshly made and freshly deep fried, so it cannot not good.
Yeah, exactly. I tried that and it was so delicious. Yeah.
There were so many things. I wanted to get everything.
It was very a lot of really authentic little stalls. So yeah, that was Chinatown. We had made a tragic error this evening when we visited Chinatown because we had already been given dinner first. And then there was just so many amazing snacks to try and we could have eaten dinner, 20 times over there too. So go to Chinatown on an empty stomach. That's my big tip. But it was I loved it that there was lots and lots of locals there as well. So yeah, a really wonderful, proper good Bangkok experience. Now, my final guest today is Suree. You will remember hearing from Suree in episode 300. And this chat I actually recorded with her sitting in the cafe in the corner at Kudichin, which Paddy described for us in my first guest today. And I actually started off asking Suree about her suggestions for other, lesser known parts of Bangkok, but we mostly ended up chatting about Thai culture. But I hope you find it as interesting as I did.
First is this one, right? If you cross the river, then you get to a Chinese community we call Talat Noi. Then you walk in there, you can see some chai, some old house, and some of the Chinese pillow. They still make it there, like that, and sweet, Chinese sweet down there. But in there, not only Chinese people living, they have mosque, they have church, and that just like here. So people in Thailand, one thing, we live in peaceful. We can come from different tribe, different group, but we live together very well.
That was the next question I was going to ask. Exactly, because we've just walked past a church, a Catholic church, and there's temples near Buddhist temples, and I know there's a mosque kind of around the corner. I could hear the call to prayer from up above, but there's no conflict. People are happy to just...
Not at all. Not at all.
Why is
I
that?
guess because we kind of like, we have the same idea, like peaceful is the main point. Okay. So every religion's teaching people to be good, to be peaceful. As long as you don't start off the problem, you don't cause any trouble, you'll be fine. Your life will be perfect. And then religions is not the main thing. Religions is just help you running your life, but not all of it. Okay, you still have your neighbor, you still have people surrounding you. If they're nice to you, you're nice to them back. No matter what they believe in.
Yeah, this is a very sensible philosophy. I like it. Yeah, but I know whenever I come to Thailand, everyone seems very friendly and calm and happy.
We have to thanks to the king in the old day, of how we never been under colonized of anyone, so we never been under pressure.
Right.
So Thai people still can smile, can enjoy life. I couldn't imagine if we, under colonized or under anyone or under pressure, how we're going to handle it. But we're lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
So Thai people can smile all the time, enjoy, party animal.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a good balance though. It's like, and the happiness or the positivity. It's not fake. It seems always real. The more Thai people I know, they always seem generally positive people. I think this positive Thai approach to life is one of the reasons that I keep going back to Thailand. And I'm very pleased that Suree also mentioned an area of Bangkok I haven't been to, just to give me another reason to go back as if I needed one. So she mentioned Talat Noi, the Chinese area, and I will leave a link in the show notes to a page about that so you can find out too. So, thank you so much for listening to episode 304 of the Thoughtful Travel podcast. I hope that it gives you some ideas about what you can do if you get to go to Bangkok one day, some of the mainstream and some of the lesser known, not always the top 10 tourist attractions. I like to have a good variety of things to do, and especially to hang out like in Chinatown where all the locals are also wandering and getting their very tasty snacks and meals. So I hope you enjoyed. A few links to share. Thank you so much to all my guests. You can find out more about Paddy Jenkins at his YouTube page at Thai Talk with Paddy. Highly, highly recommend checking out some of his videos too. They're fabulous. So just search for Thai Talk with Paddy on YouTube. More about Bonnie and her writing at her website, bonitamagrima.com. You can find Jules her on Instagram or TikTok by searching for Amazing Sydney Life. So that's her username altogether. And of course, you can also check out more about Thailand at the amazingthailand.com.au site. And I've also leave a link in the show notes for that Talat Noi area. So just as a final disclaimer, as you probably remember from previous episodes, I was sent by the Tourism Authority of Thailand to Bangkok, and despite that wonderful luck, all of this is still my pure opinions because, that's important, I think. So thank you so much. Don't forget to come and join one of our groups if you're not already there. The Facebook group for Thoughtful Travellers, just search for Thoughtful Travellers in Facebook and you will find us. And similarly for LinkedIn, there's a shortcut to get to the LinkedIn one. Just go to notaballerina.com/LinkedIn. And all of this and more will be in the show notes at notaballerina.com/304. As always, thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.